On a cool Saturday morning in downtown Portland, a man named Ethan sits in a corner cafe. His coffee costs $3, but he sips it slowly, as if it were the richest drink in the world. He pulls out his phone, opens his bank app, and smiles. His weekly spending is already planned, and the number is shockingly small, $80 total. Ethan isn't stressed. He isn't counting pennies in fear. In fact, he feels wealthier than he ever did back when his paycheck was bigger, his apartment more expensive, and his shopping cart overflowing. He lives on $80 a week and feels rich. The idea sounds impossible in today's world, where grocery bills alone can wipe out that number in a single trip. Yet, Ethan has found a way to live lighter, freer, and, somehow, happier. His journey is not about sacrifice, but about redefining what it means to be wealthy. The question is, how does he do it and why does it feel so good? Ethan is 32, a part-time graphic designer who works remotely from his small apartment. Just a few years ago, he was living a very different life. Back then, he earned more money, but he was also drowning in credit card bills, spending hundreds each week on food delivery, and used subscriptions and impulse shopping. "I thought wealth meant having more stuff," he admits. "But I always felt broke, no matter how much I earned." When the cost of living crisis hit in 2022, Ethan had a wake-up call. Rent was climbing, groceries were soaring, and his savings account looked thinner by the month. Instead of chasing higher pay, he decided to experiment with spending less. At first, it was just a survival strategy, but soon it became a lifestyle, and then a joy. Today, his weekly budget is fixed at $80. To friends, it sounds restrictive. To Ethan, it feels like freedom. With fewer expenses, he has fewer worries. He spends time on what truly matters, cooking his own meals, biking around the city, and building deeper friendships. In his words, "I'm not living cheap. I'm living rich on my own terms." The idea of feeling rich. What does it mean to feel rich? For most people, it's tied to numbers. A higher salary, a bigger house, or a luxury car. But psychologists say wealth is less about income and more about perception. A Princeton study once suggested happiness rises with income, but only to a point. Beyond that, more money doesn't equal more joy. In fact, studies in recent years show that once basic needs are met, control, freedom, and time bring far more satisfaction than cash. Ethan stumbled into this truth by accident. By cutting his expenses, he discovered he didn't need more income to feel secure. He needed less pressure. His new lifestyle gave him freedom to work fewer hours, to enjoy slow mornings, and to stop worrying about the next bill. "I feel rich because I own my time," he says simply. Before we get into how Ethan actually stretches $80 across 7 days, I'd highly recommend that you subscribe to this channel if you want to discover more real-life money-saving strategies, practical frugal living tips, and inspiring stories like this one. And don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend, and let's keep growing this community together. This shift is powerful. Richness, for Ethan, isn't about comparing himself to others. It's about living with enough and recognizing that enough is already more than most of us realize. The irony? By spending less, he feels he has gained more peace, more choice, and more joy. So how exactly does Ethan stretch $80 across 7 days? He starts with the basics, food. Around $25 a week goes to groceries, mostly rice, beans, vegetables, eggs, and seasonal fruit. He buys in bulk, cooks at home, and makes almost everything from scratch. For him, food isn't just fuel, it's an activity. He experiments with recipes, hosts potluck dinners with friends, and enjoys the taste of meals money can't easily buy, home-cooked comfort. Next is transport. $10 a week covers bus rides or the occasional subway trip. Most days, Ethan rides his bike or simply walks. He jokes that his legs are his free gym membership. His phone and internet? Just $15 a week, thanks to a budget carrier and splitting Wi-Fi costs with a neighbor. That leaves the fun part, $20 for experiences. This might mean a cafe visit, a thrift store treasure hunt, or a community event. The money is small, but Ethan says it feels big because he chooses carefully. Every dollar is spent with intention. Finally, there's the fun fund, $10 tucked away for anything unplanned. Some weeks it goes unused, and he rolls it forward, giving him small bursts of freedom. By the end of the week, Ethan has not only stayed on budget but also filled his days with activity, friendship, and purpose. It isn't about cutting back, it's about choosing wisely. Then, the invisible luxuries. The secret behind Ethan's happiness is what he doesn't pay for. He no longer pays gym fees. He runs in the park, joins free yoga classes, or uses playground bars for bodyweight workouts. He doesn't spend on streaming subscriptions. Instead, he borrows books, movies, and even audiobooks from the public library. Entertainment? He taps into his city's free events calendar, street festivals, outdoor concerts, and museum nights. When friends go out for pricey dinners, Ethan often invites them over for homemade pizza and board games. The result? Connection without the credit card bill. Even travel looks different. He explores his own city as if he were a tourist, hopping on his bike to discover hidden corners and weekend farmers markets. For Ethan, these invisible luxuries aren't compromises, they're upgrades. They give him the same joy people often buy, only without the debt. Ethan's $80 a week lifestyle isn't just a personal experiment, it reflects a bigger shift happening worldwide. In the past few years, inflation has hit households in cities from London to New York to Sydney. Groceries and rent have soared, leaving millions questioning how to stretch their paychecks. While many chase side hustles or higher salaries, a quiet countermovement has emerged, people choosing to live with less and finding freedom in the process. On TikTok and YouTube, creators share $50 week challenges, inspiring millions of views. Minimalism, once a trend after the 2008 financial crisis, has evolved into something new, frugal living as resilience. It's not about being poor, it's about being smart in unpredictable times. Luxury brands talk about quiet luxury, but among everyday people, another phrase is spreading: quiet frugality, a way of living that values peace, time, and control over flashy spending. Ethan's story fits this global moment. He isn't an outlier, he's a glimpse of the future many are moving toward: less spending, more living. Now, the mindset shift. Ethan's real transformation wasn't about numbers, it was about mindset. In the past, he measured success by what he could buy: a bigger TV, trendier clothes, dinners at expensive restaurants. But each purchase left him chasing the next. "I was always waiting for the next thing to make me happy," he says. Living on $80 a week changed that. Instead of asking, "What can I buy?" he began asking, "What do I actually enjoy?" The answer surprised him. Long walks, homemade meals, conversations with friends, afternoons reading at the library. None of those cost much. This shift turned frugality into empowerment. Saving money was no longer about deprivation. It became a way to build freedom. Ethan's story shows that wealth can be psychological. It's about how you frame your life, not just your bank balance. Ethan doesn't expect everyone to live on exactly $80 a week, but he believes anyone can try a version of it. His advice? Start small. Try a $100 challenge week. Write down every expense and see how creative you can be with what you already have. Cook from your pantry, walk instead of driving, explore free events in your area. You'll be surprised by how much is already available without spending. Next, follow what Ethan calls the swap, share, simplify rule. Swap expensive habits for cheaper ones, homemade coffee instead of cafe lattes. Share resources with friends, subscriptions, meals, even tools. And simplify by cutting out expenses that don't bring real joy. Finally, focus on joy per dollar. Spend on things that make you feel alive, not just entertain for a moment. Ethan insists this isn't about living cheap. It's about living rich, on your own terms. Ethan lives on just $80 a week, yet he feels richer than when he earned and spent much more. His story proves that wealth is not measured in possessions, but in freedom, peace of mind, and the ability to design a life you actually enjoy. Most of us think the answer to money stress is earning more. But Ethan flips that idea. What if the answer is spending less and needing less? What if the real secret to feeling rich is realizing that enough is already plenty? His life is not about sacrifice, it's about choosing carefully, valuing time, and appreciating small joys. In a world obsessed with more, Ethan has discovered the power of less. And that, he says, is what makes him truly wealthy. Back at the cafe, Ethan finishes his $3 coffee. The cafe is buzzing, but he looks calm, almost weightless. No credit card debt, no shopping cart full of things he doesn't need, just the freedom of knowing his life fits into $80 a week. To most people, that number looks small, but to Ethan, it feels abundant. His wealth isn't locked in a bank, It's in the way he spends his time, the choices he makes, and the peace he carries. He lives on $80 a week, and in the ways that matter most, he is rich. Now, if you want to learn more about achieving financial success, then watch this video next.